Good evening, everyone. I think we can proceed ahead and start the workshop for today. So, hello, I am Ruchira Sarma. I will be the conveyor for today's workshop, and we will begin by. I will begin by briefing you all about what exactly this workshop is about and what we all have for planned for the upcoming 3 days. So, welcome all to the first day of our workshop. Um, I'd just like to begin by saying that within the realm of humanities, especially Indian studies, the value of research and academic studies is very important, given that this is something that has been declining in the past few years. And it becomes very necessary that students of undergraduate and postgraduate studies really understand the essence of and start applying it to all the realms of their studies. So it is with that objective of reigniting the value of this particular topic that we bring to you this workshop. So today's and the subsequent 2 days workshop is aimed at providing you all with a comprehensive exploration of academic research, especially within the realm of ancient Indian and history. Um, the speakers that we have lined up today and a few days, will delve into the foundational research concepts and engage with you using a lot of practical methodologies that will help you develop essential skills that are necessary to conduct academic research. The intent of this workshop is to equip UG and PG students that focus on the topics of ancient Indian history, culture, archaeology, and allied subjects with the knowledge, skills, and confidence that is necessary to engage in meaningful academic research. By the end of this workshop, we hope the participants take away not only an understanding of the theoretical underpinnings that lie at the base of academic research, but also learn how to apply these principles to formulate their own research questions, conduct their own literature reviews, design their research, and collect and data analyze their data well, and finally, most importantly, present their findings in an effective manner. It is interesting to note that within the realm of education, certification has become a very important thing. We do understand that certificates are important to sort of uphold the qualities that you have gained, but we firmly believe that attending a workshop and getting a certificate should not be an end in themselves. It needs to go beyond that. Therefore, we are committed to providing students with the opportunity to attend workshops, but also to gain some practical skills that they can apply beyond the end of the workshop. So, with that, I would like to briefly walk you over to what the journey that we have planned for you in the upcoming 3 days is. And this will help you understand what you have to be prepared for and what you have to sort of do from your end with regards to this workshop. So the first step is essentially going to be obviously attending this workshop that will be from today until the 26th of December. After that, we have an examination planned that will be essentially based on the things that you'll be learning in the 3 days workshop. Once you attempt the exams, you'll have to submit it back to us by the 28th of December. So you'll get an ample amount of 2 days' time to sort of go over it and understand and apply your skills that you've learned over the period of 3 days. Once you submit it back to us by 29th, we will be releasing the scores. Those who get a score of over 50% will be qualified to get the certification. I do have to make a point here and reiterate that those who do not get a minimum of 50% will not be given a certificate. So make sure that you do take ample amount of notes and understand the concepts well. And should you have any questions, should you not understand something, please feel free to put it in the comment section so that we can address it and help you out as and when we proceed. So that brings us to the examination and the certification bit. We do not end there. We do not just give you the certificate and say bye bye. We take it ahead and we hope to sort of get as many participants as we can in the next step, which is that of writing a research chapter. So, whatever you learn throughout this procedure of the workshop, you will get a first hand opportunity to apply it in writing a research chapter. So please make sure that you study well, you attempt the exam, and you join us in the next step, which is that of writing a research chapter that will be published as a research book. With that, I will just like to say that make sure that you enjoy this learning process. Academic research may sound a little dull because of the context that we have been brought up in, but we do want to sort of redefine what it is when we say academic research. It is a fun journey for us, all of us, to embark on. it is a wonderful thing that sort of develops not just our own understanding about our study field, it also enriches the field that we are associated with. So I hope you all enjoy and also learn in the process. And with that, I would like to invite our first speaker for this workshop, who is Ido Efriandi. Mr. Ido, if you can please start sharing the screen and please take ahead the workshop.
Okay, thank you so much, Risera, for the time and opportunities that you given to me. I will share my screen for now. Okay, wait. Can you see my screen for now?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, Ruchira, and all the participants that attending this workshop today. I'm Edo Afrendi. I'm from Jakarta, Indonesia. Hopefully, you can join this event, join this workshop actually to get a new information and knowledge to collect the research after this, like what Ruchira mentioned us before. Okay, here I'm a researcher from Indonesia. I involved for several times as a researcher, which was collaborate for some international organizations under Center for Islamic Studies at my university, and also I become a researcher, which was collaborate with Ministry of Education and Culture of the Republic of Indonesia for once, and also for several times I did research with my lecturers at when I in bachelor degrees. Hopefully, it can get a new knowledge for us and new experience for us to be a researcher for the next future, hopefully. And here I am. I want to presenting you how the introductions to research methodology. Can you hear my voice clearly, guys? Ruchira?
Yes, yes, you're very audible. Please proceed.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so here, first of all, I would like to give a clarifications. What does research mean? Research is a careful investigations for a new facts in any branch of knowledge, which means that if we want to do a research, we should have to investigate some things, investigate problems that we want to find a way solutions that involve into the research. And I put two definitions from the previous people about research. From Redman and Murray, they told us that research is a systematic effort to gain a new knowledge, like I mentioned you before, guys. And for the second people is Clifford Woody, which he mentioned that research comprises defining and redefining problems, formulating hypotheses or suggested solutions, collecting, organizing, and evaluating data, making deductions and reaching conclusions, and at least carefully testing the conclusions to determine whether they fit the formulating hypothesis. Which means that if you want to do a research based on Clifford Woody said before, that if we want to do a research, we should have to find the problems, make formulating hypothesis objective, and also collecting the data, organizing, and make the data that we collect before to evaluate the data and make some conclusions for the output of our research. For the next slide, why do we did a research? There are several reasons for us if we want to do a research, especially for people who want to complete their research in the last semester of the last time of their educations at bachelor or post graduate, undergraduate, and postgraduate. It can be one of the requirements if they want to finish, if they want to complete the bachelor, their degree, I means, and also a desire to face the challenge in solving the problems. Why? Because if we want to do a research, we should know to the solutions that we want to prove, that we want to solve the problems, and also it's obviously it's using in the intellectual sites, and also other reasons for us to do a research like you guys see in this screen. And also and the last one is it's really important for us to know that we want to do a research to make a publications, because it's one of the requirements for us as a graduate people, as a I mean it's like as students of degree, to publish our research to international publicators or national publicators. So what is the important features of a research design? There are 3 points that I highlight for this point, for this part. The first one, it's about a plan. We should make a we should make a bet we should make a back I'm sorry we should make a specific plan to the problems that we want to find the solutions of our research, and made a strategy to the way that information that we want to put into our research. And last, it is maybe just an options for us to take our time and budget to do a research. And the next slide, it's about characteristics of research. There are 7 points of characteristics of research. The first one is about systematic. The second one is logical. The third one empirical, and the next one is objectivity. The next one replicable, quality control, and all we designed and conducted research has potential applications. So there are the characteristics of the research we should involve of our research. And the next one is how to define your objectives. This point is really important for us, because if we want to do a research, we try to make it simple, do not make it harder to us, because the more variables, the harder things that you put into your research can make you feel not enjoy to do your research. You cannot give the output of your research, and do not use much variables for your research, because the more variables, the more difficult research that you did. And use the opportunities, like what I did before. I involved for several times in a research team, which in my university and also out of my university also. So this is the opportunities that I used to make it bigger, to make my experience better than what I'm not joining the organizations or institutions before. So the last one is how to define your objectives. It's about get help at this stage. You need really you are really need the references from the previous people, like from your senior at your college, and also experience from the researcher on. So I highly I highlight for this point, because we can get a better experience by the people who are involved before us at the research, because we can ask them what is the point that we are really involved into our research, what is the objectivity that we should have to clarify on our, what is the way that we want to find the solutions of our research. So we can ask for the senior, we can ask the for the previous researcher on, uh, like one of people told me before that the more you ask, the more you get. And the next one is about literature research. If you want to do a research, make sure that your idea is original. You are not copying for someone research before, because the most important point that we should have to put in our research is novelty. Novelty is the newest thing that we want to give the output for the next reference, for the next I mean it's like for the next researcher on, give your new ideas for, and make sure for it that it's original from you. So get much articles, read article and their references. Most of those this will be vital when writing up reports. Find gap areas, find obsolete measurements and results. And the last one is define objective of the study. And the next one is steps involved in a research. You can see, guys, this is the very steps that you can put into your research research activity for the next time. Choose a subject, literature survey. We should have to read a lot of literatures, because by the literatures we get the more knowledge we get, the more informations that can make sure that our research can get a best output for the next. And prepare synopsis, producing of suitable apparatus or materials, design of experimental setup, preliminary experiments, executing of the projects, and the other things. This is the process of the research. You can see, if we join a formal training, the first they told us that what is the first thing that we want to do if we want to do a research. The first one is identify the problem and the question. It is really most important things that we put in our research. After that, we formulate the goals. We try to find, oh, this is the way. This is the after getting the problems before, we next to find the goals. Oh, this is the goals of my research. Oh, this is the objective of my research. And the next one is a plan and design research. You can make it plain. You can use any tools. You can use any kind of ways of your research. And the fourth one is generate research result. After you plan and design your research, you can generate it as your results and as your output, and interpret results and draw conclusions. You just, and the last, you should have to make conclusions of what is the biggest point of your research before. Yeah, like this, like in your screen before, in this screen today, in this screen you can see the processes of research, like I mentioned before. Okay, this is the research article writing. This is the common things that I did with my lecturers when I was at my bachelor degree. The first one is we find a suitable and specific journals. It's about our literatures, and get copy of instructions to authors. Prepare articles as per instructions. Select suitable titles, authors, and affiliations. Affiliations means that our institutions. At the time, I become a researcher on with my university, which means that I'm from my university, which is one of private university in Jakarta, which is Universitas Nasional. I put my affiliations, my name first, then my affiliations, Universitas Nasional, which is Edo Afrendi, and the affiliations is Universitas Nasional. And you made an abstract. Abstract is not, it's only the point that you want to highlight in your research article writing. Highlights, and also highlights, it can, your keywords, just for 4 points for keywords in your research. Novelty, yeah, this is the novelty statements, like what I told you before. The novelty is the newest thing that you want to give in your research, because you did research is based on your new idea, so it's originally from you. And the next is introductions, materials and methods, results and discussions, conclusions and acknowledgements, and also the last one is references. References, you have to put all kinds of references that you did in your article writing research. And this is the authorship or ethics. As a researcher on, we are become a theme at a time. So make sure that all the authors should have a direct impact in our study of our research. And article is free from plagiarism. It's originally from us and should follow ethics. We know, I mean, it's like no one can judge someone in your research. No racism, no other things that can make that can bend ethics in our research. And this is the research report. The first one, we should have to put introduction and statement of the problems. The second one is review of relevant literatures. The third one, statement of hypothesis or research objectives. Theoretical, we should have to put our theories in our research. And description of research design, descriptions of experimental designs, description of measurements and data analysis, error compounding, presentation of results, discussion, conclusion, limitations and implications, suggestions for future work, acknowledgements, references cited, and appendices. Okay, this is the next one. It's about types of research. The first one, it's about application, which there are 2 points that involve in applications. The first one is pure and applied research. And the second one is inquiry model. This is the common things that we want to use in type of research. This is the common things that every researcher or enumeраtor put in their research. The first one is quantitative research, and the second one is qualitative research. Which quantitative research means that measurements of quantity or amount. There are a lot of number from this research. And for the second one is qualitative research. We concern with qualitative phenomena, which it's like human life. We are just need to describe something, not using any kinds of numbers, any kinds of amount like that. For example, I want to give a sample for these 2 types of common type of research that we ever heard in our lives, which, for example, of quantitative research. For example, of a quantitative research is survey conducted to understand how long a doctor takes to tend to a patient when the patient walks into the hospital. It means that we need a data, we need a qualifications of high numbers of data for this case. And the second case is qualitative, which, for example, we are interested in investigating the reasons of human behavior. So we just need to describe human behavior like this. Descriptions of not using the numbers of any kinds of tables I mean, it's like the simple things that we put in qualitative research rather than we compare it with quantitative research. Because I'm coming from I mean, it's like social and political science faculty, so it's a common things for us to use a qualitative research. And this is the research studies based on research objectives. There are 4 points. The first one is exploratory or formulative research. The second one is descriptive research. The third one is diagnostic research. And the last one is hypothesis testing research. Maybe that's all of my presentations today. I'm sorry for all of my weaknesses. I'm sorry for all of my mistakes and my limit informations for research. Hopefully you can get a better point for this presentation today. And I give it back to Ruchira. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your wonderful insights into what exactly goes behind when we say academic research. So thank you so much for sharing your PPT and your thoughts. With that, we move ahead to the next session, and I'll start sharing my screen again.
Okay.
All right. For those participants who have just joined us, I would just like to briefly walk over the steps that are involved in this particular workshop. So as we all know, we are here primarily for the workshop for the duration of 3 days. But what happens after that? We have an examination coming up. So this exam is very application based. All the things that you see here, all the things that you hear here You have to sort of remember them and learn how to apply them in person, and how you will be sort of take charge and apply them in your life. So the exam that we'll be sharing across to you on the 26th, the last day of the workshop, will be highly application based. So do make sure that you listen to all the pointers that the speakers are sharing with you, and also do take notes whenever you feel like taking. And this exam is the sort of criteria, the basic baseline that we are sort of deciding whom to give certifications to. So usually what happens is, whenever we have a workshop, whenever anyone has a workshop really, they have the workshop and then it ends, and there is a process where they give out certificates. But we wanted to do something a little more practical, a little more application inducing sort of a situation. So it is because of that we have this exam. Once you qualify this exam, you have to aim at a higher end of 50%. Like, you have to basically get 50 or above to qualify the exam. And once that happens, you will be awarded your certificate. But those who unfortunately could not qualify the exam, you should know that we will not be issuing you a certificate. And those who do clear the exam, those who do get a percentage of 50% and above, will be qualified to write a research chapter. So when I say research chapter, this will be a very detailed and exhaustive process. It comes with a lot of new experiences for you, primarily because a research chapter is different from a research paper or research article as such. Here you get to research in depth on a particular topic, and you get to learn how exactly it is that people who are in the academic field go about writing chapters that eventually get published in a book. So the essential things that you need to know are: one, you have to qualify the exam to get a certificate, and two, once you qualify, you get the interesting chance to write a research chapter of your own. Do not worry, it won't be a solo endeavor. You will get a lot of mentorship and guidance from a lot of qualified people. So do make sure that you listen to all the things that are being shared with you on this during this workshop, and prepare yourselves for this exam, because that is the basic criteria on the basis of which the certificates will be provided to you. With that, I would now move on to the next session, which is session number 2, and I will be the speaker for this segment. I'd like to briefly introduce myself. I'm Ruchira Sarma. I am the head mentor of the research department at Indo-Archaeology Research. For those who have just joined, I would briefly like to speak a little bit about Indo-Archaeology Research. We are an NGO that is primarily focused on creating platforms for young students to understand what research essentially is, and get first-hand experience at conducting research and going onto the field and exploring archaeology and other associated fields. We are focused more on giving practical experiences than merely limiting ourselves to theory. So with that sort of basis in our mind, I would now like to move on to the next session, which is that of formulating a research question. So research questions are essentially the cornerstone, essentially the north pole of your entire research project. Every research project starts with a question. What are we trying to prove? What are we trying to sort of bring out in a research project? That is the thing that forms your research question. A well-crafted research question becomes a very good guiding sort of principle that will make sure that whatever you're writing, whatever you're sort of developing, has a concrete product at the end. Without a research question, you are just meandering into a world of unknown. So it becomes essential that you start your journey with a very solid question. And research questions need to be very narrow. They need to be very focused and clear and concentrated. Otherwise, the issue becomes that you start to go into a lot of associated topics that may not necessarily be what you want to sort of reiterate or focus on. So while you're developing your research question, you have to make sure that your question addresses a particular gap. Otherwise, it is just copying someone else's work. So you have to first understand what has been there in the field, what is being already spoken about in the topic that you are trying to explore. Understand that little gap, and then try to fill that existing sort of gap. That will be the research question's purpose as such. With that, I want to just walk over a few key characteristics that every research question needs to sort of have in it, which is that of clarity. Your question needs to sort of be very clear and need to be very focused. It cannot go into a wide range of subcategories. Whenever you say, let's say you take the example of this particular topic, which is that of, let's say I want to research influence of Ramayana and Mahabharata on the cultural history of India. That is a really broad topic. So how do we narrow it down? We need to make sure that it is very focused so that our work becomes central and important and is sort of filling a lacuna that is there in our field. We need to answer a certain gap. We need to fill that. We need to find that gap. So that is done only after we understand certain key characteristics, which include relevance. Your question need not go into other associated fields. Let's say you're a student of ancient Indian studies or history. You need to focus more on what is at hand and not go into other allied areas. You need to make sure that what you're answering or what you're trying to question is relevant to your field. Your question also needs to be original. Like Mr. Ido had mentioned previously, your topic should not be a repetition of what has already been done. It needs to be unique. It needs to be novel. So make sure that the question that you're developing has originality at its base. It also needs to be feasible. By feasibility, I mean you need to make sure that you have enough number of references, enough number of sort of resources to develop your entire project on. Just because you have an idea, it does not mean it always pans out. So you have to make sure that you gather enough references and you gather enough information and sort of develop your base first, and then sort of come up with a question on the basis of researched information. It also needs to be very specific. Like I said, it cannot go into multiple sub areas. It needs to address only specific things. Otherwise, it takes a lot of efforts, and it just goes into areas that you probably do not want to go into because you do not sort of narrow down in the first place. So be sure to specify what you want to talk about. Now, how do you go about generating a research question? This becomes a really important hurdle that most of the students face, including myself. Anytime I want to write a research paper or research chapter or anything, I find myself very confused as to what exactly I should be doing. So it always, for me, starts with the brainstorming phase. So this is where I sit in front of a book or a blank page and I sort of mind map all the topics that come up from a basic idea. And once you start doing it, you will flow into the next point, which is that of ideation. From brainstorming, you will start getting particular ideas. You will find links between two topics. And from there, you will be able to come up with certain questions that keep bothering you over and over again. So these could be the questions that can become the overarching sort of research question that you want to answer. Then, like I previously mentioned, make sure that you study the existing literature. You cannot formulate a question without understanding what is already there in the field. You have to first understand other researchers' works. You have to understand that they have filled so many already existing gaps. Now, what remains? You have to keep asking that. What is not said? What needs to be asked? You have to keep asking that, and that's how you find gaps, and that's how you formulate your questions. I'd like to use a little bit of example here to sort of reiterate and emphasize how important it is to get a good research question. So, like I said, let's say you take an example of influence of two major epics in the Indian context, which are those of Mahabharata and Ramayana. Both of them are highly important texts that have defined our cultural history. But this is something that a lot of historians and art historians and many others have already researched upon. So how do you find a gap in that? How do you make sure that what you want to say is unique and new? So that starts with, again, literature review. You start by reading a lot of previously published literature. You find a gap. So let's say you don't do that. You just jump into it and say that I want to focus on influence of the epics on Indian art. But that again is too broad. You cannot start writing an entire paper or a chapter on the basis of that, because it can lead you to multitude of areas, because art cannot be defined only with one area. It includes cultural performances, it includes paintings, it includes temple architecture, it includes a lot of other things. So you need to start narrowing it down. So what does a narrowed down research question look like? It could look something like this. How are the epics represented in the temple iconography in South India, and how does it differ from that in North India? So in this way, in this particular context, I have tried to sort of narrow the entire conversation of epics into temple iconography, which is limiting it. I further narrow it down into South Indian temples. So South India is very limited in comparison to the entirety of Indian subcontinent. And then I again narrow the question into how it compares to North India. So there is a comparative study that is happening. It is not only South India, but I'm also including North India into the conversation. So the focus here is that of bringing a comparison between North and South Indian temple representation of the two epics. So this sort of narrows down, but also make sure that I have enough sort of area to cover in the topic that I want to cover. So that way you have to start it always starts very broad. You have to understand that it always starts broad. Then you start narrowing it down. You chip away at the various subtopics that you don't want to explore, and then you come down to a very narrow and solid question. This again can be worked upon. There are multiple ways I can still narrow it down, but this is just an example that I wanted to share. The interesting thing about having a very specific question is that automatically it gives you a lot of other areas that are being covered in your paper, which include objectives. So every research project has a bunch of objectives that it tries to sort of answer. So when I take this particular question, which is that of how are the epics represented in temple iconography, I automatically start getting questions and points which include what are the particular areas that I will be touching upon. So when I ask this, I get ticket. Now I will talk about this, then this, then this. My objectives automatically start arising. Then I also understand which areas I need to start studying upon, which topics I need to start reading upon. So that forms my literature review, which again is an important element of any research project. Then comes the research methodology. Given that I'm talking about temples in south and north, I will have to understand that I have to decide whether I will be doing site visits or whether I'll be relying on secondary resources. So this defines how I will go about doing my research. So a research question also helps in understanding what my research methodology will be. It again leads me to the next topic of research design. It helps me decide, okay, so now that I have decided that I want to do a comparison, so then I will probably take up case studies. I will take one temple from north, I will take one temple from south, and then do a comparative analysis. So this also informs my research design. So what I'm trying to get at here is anytime you want to design, you want to come up with a research question, you have to make sure that it answers several other topics, which include objectives, literature review, research methodology, and design. It automatically leads to these points. There are several things that you need to keep in your mind while you're formulating a research question, which includes your personal interest, because there are so many topics that you can research upon. But if you take up something that you already feel interested in, then the motivation to sort of finish that research becomes 10,000 more times, right? So make sure that you try at least to find some topic that you find interesting and then develop from there. Also, literature review, this is a word, these are two words that I will be repeating throughout because these are the key foundational elements that form the sort of basis of entire research projects. So make sure you conduct a good literature review. I will be walking over how to do it, but do make sure that you keep this thing in your mind. And do speak with your mentors. Like Mr. Edu mentioned, you have to keep asking. The more you ask, the more you know and the more you can do. So keep speaking to your mentors, ask them how you can develop a better question, and also make sure that you keep evaluating the significance and the relevance of your question. Make sure it's very sort of specific, very clear, and very feasible for you to sort of take ahead. And also make sure you do check the availability of resources before you decide on a research question, because if you don't have enough resources or data to support your question and answer your question with, then it's just words in the air. So make sure you have enough resources to start with. With that, we come to the next session, which is that of gathering resources, gathering references. So now that you have decided on maybe a topic, you will need a good amount of reference material to take ahead your research, to make sure that it is solid and well formed, right? So for that, we need references. But why exactly should we do it? I'm telling you it's important, but why exactly is it important? So references essentially give you a lot of credibility in the world of academics. Without good material, without good references, what you say is considered fiction. You need facts, you need established literature to support whatever you say. Otherwise, it is just writings on a paper. You need solid backing to it, and that is where references come in. So make sure that you always read upon the topic that you have chosen to write upon, so that you know that a lot of other speakers, a lot of other scholars have already been working on the topics that you might be interested in. So it's important that you connect your work with theirs, and you continue the narrative tradition, you continue the scholarly discourse that has been happening since a lot of time. So you try to connect it with others and take ahead the academic tradition. And even though it might feel like just a formality, it is not. It is a very important and strategic move that solidifies what you're saying in academic sort of conversations. It needs to have that backing. Otherwise, like I said, it's just words in the air. It also, references also act as good materials for you to cite. So every research paper or research project or research chapter for that matter requires citations. So many of you might be attempting to write your dissertations or your thesis. So in those cases, citations are a very important element that your mentors might be emphasizing on. So having good citations starts with having good references. So you start there and then you eventually just cite these references over and over again, and you build your value of your paper or your work as such. And it also helps in developing a good literature review. I kept on saying literature review, literature review. What exactly is it? It is essentially a process by which you sort of develop context for what you're trying to speak about in your project. So the process starts simple. You go onto Google or you visit your libraries, and then you find books and materials and research papers that speak about the topic that you wish to explore. So by gathering all this material, you start reading it, and then you get an idea that a particular scholar has already explored particular so and so areas, and then whatever he or she hasn't discussed becomes a gap. Then you attempt to fill that gap, and then you try to sort of develop the conversation further. So literature review essentially shows you what the existing lacuna or gap in the field is, and it enables you to fill it very scientifically. It does not happen very randomly, it happens very systematically. So it also helps you to understand the background of research that has already happened, and it helps you understand what experts in the field have spoken, and then you can make your opinions more informed and well grounded. And it also ensures that you're not replicating any studies. So this is very important. Originality is the cornerstone of any form of academic research, whether it be your thesis proposals or your dissertations or anything for that matter. All of it needs to be original. Without originality, it is just copy paste of information, and that is not something that we as academics should be doing, right? So for that purpose, make sure you get a good grip on what literature review is. Apart from what I've just said, there are so many more scholars who have spoken on this topic. So take time, go on to maybe YouTube or any other platforms that encourage academic learnings, and research what literature review is. Read upon it, develop that skill, because this is something that you will be asked to do over and over again. And once you know how to do it, it is just absolute fun to do. Um, Now I come back to what references are. Basically, there are two types of references, one being primary and the second is secondary. Both of them have value in their own merits. Primary resource generally include first-hand accounts or original works that have been written by people, have been created by artists and stuff. Secondary resources include the interpretation or analysis of these primary sources. The primary sources are the sort of foundation, and secondary sources develop on it. How do you identify primary resource? There are obviously multitude of it in the context of Indian studies. You can sort of choose any, but I would like to focus on one key example to sort of give you an insight into what exactly primary resource and how you navigate it essentially. So I have taken up this particular book, which is that of Narrative of a Journey Through the Upper Provinces of India. So this is a book that was published in 1828, and it is a book that speaks about a person who was from Europe. He was a British traveler. His name was Reginald Herber. If you can see here, his Reginald Herber, and he used to travel. He had traveled from all the way from Europe all up to India, and he had traveled various cities and areas in India. But in this context, I want to sort of understand what he has spoken about the city of Bombay. Let's see, that is my research question, that I want to understand a European traveler's insights into the socio-economic and cultural conditions in the city of Bombay in 19th century. This is something that I want to explore. So the way I go about it is I take up the book, I read the contents, I try to find the points, and then I keep on reading what he has said and take notes of it. So for me, this particular book, the book Narrative of Journey Through Upper Provinces of India, becomes a primary resource. But if I take up another book that speaks about this particular author, and he or she lends more knowledge to it, adds more information to it, then that becomes a secondary resource. So, for example, this particular book, which is Life of Reginald Herber, this was written by the wife or the widow of Reginald Herber. So this particular book adds on to what he has already published. She keeps on referencing his works, and that acts as a secondary resource for me to develop my report on a European traveler's version of Bombay as such. So that is one. Then I also found another book that is Reginald Herber and Hindu Christian Dialogue. This was a paper that was published in 1996. So again, this does not act as a primary reference because my primary reference is Reginald Herber's book. These all references act as secondary as they develop on the primary information. So you have to understand that primary reference is the foundation, and then secondary resource adds on to it. It layers onto it. So make sure that you find a good reference material whenever you're trying to sort of start writing your academic research. Now, where do you get all these references from? There are multiple sources. There are obviously online and offline options. Online, you have various ways to get it. There is obviously JSTOR, Science Direct, and Internet Archives. And there are so many other regional and government variations of it. You can definitely read more on it, or you can take a screenshot of this and find your topics on these platforms. Then in the offline format, you can always visit your college or university libraries, because these institutions keep a catalog of the books that they have, and you can first browse through the catalog. For example, the Asiatic Library in Mumbai has an online catalog. So you can visit such catalogs and find the required necessary references first there, and then visit the library and find whether they have a physical copy of it. That helps you develop your reference material really well. It builds your overall bibliography as well. So make sure that you visit in person to these libraries. Then obviously you can speak to field experts. You can conduct interviews to gain more understanding on the topic. I will recommend that you should not stop merely at reading. You should make sure that you organize these information systematically. So there are multiple options. There is EndNote, Google Docs, MS Word, but something that I keep on using and going back to is something called as Notion. So this is an online sort of data organizing platform. You can read more on it online. But what I do with Notion is that I add the title of my book or whatever reference material I have on the left-hand side, and then I keep on sort of adding other associated elements, the author, whether it is a book or an article, and then I also add the publication year, the reference link that I got it from, and then any subsequent notes I have. What this does is it helps me organize my data. It does not stop me at only reading. It encourages me to keep notes of the topic that I'm reading, and also make sure that I have the information ready at the tip of my fingers. And that is something that you keep on having to face. You have to have your information readily accessible. So make sure you use something like this. You can even use Google Docs or Excel sheet for that matter. I will also encourage you to evaluate and verify your references, because sometimes what ends up happening is you go online and you search for something and you get unverified publications that are put up by lots of blogs and website owners. So it becomes the responsibility of you as a researcher to evaluate and verify if the information out there is true or not. So let's say you are using ChatGPT as your first-hand source material. You go to ChatGPT and you put your information. Let's say I gave it a try. I asked it what the Huna dynasty is. It gave me a bunch of paragraphs as answer, but there are none of the references that we as academics want. There is no citations. There are no citations. There are no references in this particular paragraph, as if you can see. Those are just paras in the air. So how do we ground it? We need proper references. So this is a way that you can do it. This is a published journal article by Modi Jivanji, and it was published in the Asiatic Papers. So it is a legitimate published paper. So it lends authenticity to your subsequent works. So make sure you rely more on published material instead of Google or ChatGPT or anything of that sort. So be smart about it. Make sure you choose your references really, really smartly. With that, we come to the next and sort of final area, which is that of research design and methodology. Um, so, research design is essentially the plan that guides your entire study. It is, as the name suggests, it designs, it formulates your entire process of starting with a research question and then ending up with a conclusion. It tracks your entire process. And in some ways, you can call it the architecture of your research. So it becomes very important that you take a moment, sit down, and analyze what way you want to take your research ahead. There are multiple designs out there. You can definitely read more about it. But for the purpose of this particular workshop, I will be speaking on descriptive, exploratory, and causal designs. So these are the basic ways that people from humanities usually try to touch upon academic researches. In descriptive designs, you essentially describe the issue at hand. You describe the features of a particular topic. If you take the example of, let's say, temple iconography that I had spoken of. If you take that as an example, then you explain and you describe the features of the temple. Then you speak about the various locative and physical features of the temple and other descriptive elements of it. Exploratory includes sort of exploring, literally as the name suggests. You explore the topic further. You go onto the field. You sort of conduct on-field explorations and such. And causal designs include correlating two topics. So that again is something that plays really well into the field of academics, especially in the field of humanities. So it becomes very important that you take you decide on a very appropriate research design for your purpose, because unless you understand what is at the base of your research, unless you understand what exactly you are trying to achieve, you may pick up a wrong research design and then your entire study may go askew. So make sure that you take a moment, like I said, sit down and outline what exactly you're trying to achieve, and that helps you decide on the right design. And don't hesitate to make adjustments to the design. It is not hard and fast rule that okay, now that I've decided on an exploratory design, I cannot adapt it to causal design at all. You have to understand that research is a ongoing process. You have to be very flexible and adaptive, because that way you lend yourself that space, you give yourself that space to make necessary changes. So take that liberty, you have that liberty. Again, we go back to the example of the European traveler and his writing. So let's say I want to use a 19th century book particularly, and I want to explore how this particular book speaks about the city of Bombay and how this book talks about the economic conditions and the trade elements of the city between 19th and 18th and 19th century. Let's say that is my objective. Now, how do I go about deciding a research design? The first thing that I do is choose a design. So that becomes important as it guides my entire procedure. And I have to understand that I have to sort of give justifications, at least to myself. So this particular design that I might be choosing, which is that of exploratory research design, it allows for a very in-depth exploration of something that has not been previously touched upon by a lot of scholars. So in this case, it allows me to get a European traveler's perspective on the city of Bombay and also the trade and economic conditions. So this is not something that has already been worked upon by previous scholars. This is something that I did notice, and that's why I choose this particular methodology. Then comes up the process. So that, like I said, there are multiple steps involved in any research undertaking. So the first thing that I have to do is conduct a very, very thorough review of all the available 19th century literature published by European travelers that focus primarily on India. I have to read upon multiple other books to decide on one particular book. So once I do that, I will be able to identify some key themes, some observations that a lot of other travelers have made. So this makes me capable of sort of evaluating which one to decide upon. And then comes a selection of primary text. So once I review a lot of other material, I get to choose one that answers my research question well. So I get to choose something that covers all the points and has a lot of value to add to my research. So in my case, let's say I pick up the book called Narrative of a Journey Through Upper Provinces of India. Again, this book was published in 1828, which falls within the time frame that I want. It is published by, it is written by a foreign traveler, which is Reginald Heber. He was a British traveler. So again, it qualifies, it ticks a lot of things that I already want to cover. Then comes contextualization. So what is contextualization? It essentially is adding a little bit of background, a little bit of context to the book that I'm trying to explore. So once I pick up this particular book, Narrative of a Journey, as my primary topic, then I have to add other material that backs it up. There needs to be other sources that say that, all right, this person has said this, but other references also support it. If Reginald Heber says that Bombay was a thriving port, there need to be other supporting material. It cannot be just the word of one person that acts as my sort of primary material. I need other backing sources. So for that, I would probably use other reference materials, including the Bombay Gazetteer. So every time you want to research upon a topic, whether it be Bombay, whether it be Calcutta or any other region, I will always recommend you to first start reading the Gazetteer, because regardless of the topic, the Gazetteer has some amount of information that could help you. So the Gazetteer can definitely be a material that I use for developing my context, for developing my background for the entire book. It also helps me to understand what the socio-political condition of the region was that I'm trying to explore, and how this traveler must have been influenced by these particular happenings. And it helps me understand why exactly did he write the things he did. And that also leads me to the next point, which is that of data collection. So while I'm reading, while you're sort of developing your references, you and we all could essentially just keep picking out excerpts, picking out paragraphs and bits and pieces that relate to the topic that you want to sort of talk about. So in my context, if I want to talk about the economic conditions of Bombay in 19th century, then I will keep on putting that in across my brain over and over again. And it is with that intention that I will be reading the text. And whenever I see something relevant, I will pick that particular paragraph up. I will note down the paragraph page numbers and make a note of it, so that I can come back to it whenever I'm writing my research book or research chapter or anything of that sort. So those are the elements that come under research design. A closely associated topic is that of research methodology. So research methodology, again, is the topic of our entire workshop, but it also includes a lot of sub points, which is that of content analysis. So now that you have gathered all the required information from your book or from your field surveys or from any other sources, they could even be surveys, interviews or anything of that sort. So once you've gathered your content, you also need to analyze it. You need to systematically process it and categorize it into appropriate titles. So in my context, it could be information being categorized into those associating with Bombay, about trade, about economic conditions, about socio-cultural conditions, anything of that sort. So essentially, once you collect data, you also need to start analyzing and interpreting it. And the contextualizing element that came here also plays into the research methodology element, which helps you develop a historical background and sort of developing a proper historical setting to what exactly you're trying to say. So make sure that you apply the research design element even in research methodology. Then you have to make sure that you keep on going back to other references, other materials, so that you get a wholesome narrative. You get a more sort of well-formed opinion, instead of being very narrowed down to one particular book or one particular reference. So even if you're doing a comparative analysis of a site, if you go onto a site and you try to write about it, make sure you do have some elements of comparison or analysis of related areas or related sites, so that you understand that this particular area that you're exploring is not in isolation, that it did not happen out of nowhere. It was in association with other areas, or maybe it does share some similarities or dissimilarities with other areas. So make sure you do have a little bit of cross-referencing in your research methodology process. And then you always have to make sure that you do add a little bit or a lot of interpretation, because without interpretation and reflection, this entire procedure is just bringing together of information. There needs to be interpretation that happens on top of the researched material. because only through adding your own interpretations and reflections can you make it your own. Without that element, it is more or less a copy, not copy really, but bringing together of other information that have been there since forever. Interpretation and reflection are the key areas through which you sort of get to mark your element in your research. So make sure that you take a moment, take some time to read through your entire research and gather your thoughts and add it as interpretation as well as reflection. So those are the sort of things that I wanted to speak about with respect to research design and methodology. Before I move on to the concluding segment for today, I do want to reiterate again that our workshop is there for tomorrow and the day after. So make sure you join in until the 26th. The timings will remain the same. It is from 9 p.m. to 10 o'clock to 10:15 p.m. And once this is done, once 26th happens and the workshop is finished, you will be sent across a examination paper. And this will be rather straightforward. I will not say it's highly difficult to crack, but it is highly going to be application based. So whatever examples that we are talking about, whatever explanations that we offer here, they will be useful for you to try to attempt this question paper. So make sure you do pay attention, and also it will be testing your application skills. So those who qualify this exam with a percentage of 50 will qualify to get a certificate. Those who don't, we unfortunately cannot provide you with a certificate, because the goal here is for you to learn something. It is not only for us to give you a certificate. Certificates, we can get it from any place, but we need experiences, we need concrete skills for us to take away. So do make sure that you attempt to clear the exam well. And on 29th of December, we'll be declaring the results, and you will also receive your certificates then in the coming 1 or 2 days. And those who qualify the exam with 50% and above will get the wonderful opportunity to join us in writing a research chapter. So this will be a place where you get proper mentorship and the sort of required space to apply the skills that you learn here and beyond, and write a good research chapter that will eventually be published in a research book. So this is not something that students of undergraduate and postgraduate courses do get often. So make sure that you take the opportunity in the right way and make the best out of it, and participate in the research chapter writing element of this entire workshop as well. With that, I am done with speaking all the things that I did want to speak, and I will now conclude by saying that tomorrow we do have the workshop again, continuing into a few other key elements, which are those of data collection, data interpretation, and how exactly you go about writing a good academic paper or academic writing as such. There are a lot of pitfalls that students fall into. So these are areas that we will be covering tomorrow and the day after. And we have wonderful speakers lined up for you. And with that, I bring this workshop of day one to a close. I will take a moment to go onto YouTube and look for any questions that our participants might have posed. So until then, I take a moment. I just saw a question regarding when will be the exam. It will not be time based. You need not worry about that. It will be sent across to you on 26th, and then you have the entirety of 2 days to attempt it, and then you send it back to us by 28 night, 11 p.m. Touch. So after 11 p.m., we will not be receiving or accepting any responses. So you have enough timing enough time to attempt it. So you get an ample 2 days' time. It will be an online based exam. You need not send us anything via post or anything. It will all be systematic and online in its nature. Right. What else? I'm still reading the comments, so please give me a second. I do see a lot of comments regarding the measurement of the PPT slide. I just saw it, so I hope it was visible to the participants. If not, then this is something that we will be taking up as constructive points, and we will be making the note in the next, that is tomorrow. Yes, definitely. Someone mentioned that we can help each other in our research. This is something that we do want to encourage. We do hope that students help each other out in their process of learning, and we are here to sort of promote that. So anytime you wish to sort of discuss your research procedure, you may definitely contact the Indo-Archaeology contact number that has been given in the message that was circulated around. So please feel free to address any questions that you have about research there, and then we can try to sort of take the conversation ahead. So the contact number is the one that you must have gotten the link for this meeting through. Yes, so I think I'm answering a lot of the questions. Will you please explain the literature? Oh, sure. I'll take a moment now and quickly walk through it because we do need to conclude this. Literature review is essentially, the process by which you read other people's works that has already been written on the topic that you want to explore. So without literature review, you do not really get a idea about the gaps that exist within the topic that you wish to explore. So what literature review does is it sort of opens up the discussion. It shows you what has already been covered. It essentially brings out the questions in itself. It sort of opens up the areas that you can start writing your research on. So that is the primary function of a literature review. And there are multiple ways by which you can do literature review. This is something that you can Google, of course. But what I will recommend is keep reading up on various other researchers' works, and this automatically informs your understanding on the topic. Without reading up on works of publication, you do not understand, you won't understand probably about the topic that you wish to explore. So ensure that you read a good number of books and research papers and research articles. I do not recommend reading blogs or website publications as such. I do not recommend them very much because often they do tend to not portray facts very accurately. There are websites and blogs that are excellent and have a lot of significance, but within the realm of academic research, we try to limit ourselves to published material, that too published by well-known organizations. So if you wish to know more, I think it's Sayani who posed this question on YouTube. If you do wish to know more, then we will try to sort of have more discussions on it in the upcoming days. Then I will try to guide you more on the topic. For now, it is essentially the process by which you understand what has already been there, which is already being said, which has already been said, and what gaps exist in the topic, and how you ensure what you are writing is not a copy or a replica of already published literature. So that is the basic function of literature review. And please make sure that you join in tomorrow as well. The exam will be on 28th. It will be open on 28th and 26th, 27th, and 28th. You will be given ample time to do it. You have to make sure that it's application based and it's not going to be MCQs. You will have to apply your skills there. And once you clear it, you will get your well-earned certificate. And with that, I bring today's session to a close. I'll see you all tomorrow at exactly 9 o'clock p.m. Please make sure to tune in tomorrow. Thank you.